Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, folks. This is Imam coming to you with Game Over Montreal, which wasn't canceled because of an offside challenge. No, I'm coming to you today after a 4-1 win for the Habs over the Chicago Blackhawks, and what a win it was. They absolutely needed to win this one. Honestly, it feels like they need to win a lot of the ones coming up. And they did it. So good for them. Today we come after maybe one of the best, I don't know if one of the best performances, but genuinely a very good performance by these Montreal Canadiens and asking a lot out of them with their biggest minute munching defenseman out of the lineup. Um, they they have 35 shots on goal, which are the most I believe they've had this entire season. 32 was the second highest that they had versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. So overall, good game. Very, very happy with this game. Um, I am here alone today, so I'm going to be reading the chat quite a bit, which thank you, everybody. Very happy to have you guys here. I'm seeing lots of familiar faces, so thank you. I'm being told excellent cardigan. It's actually a shawl. It was my grandmother's, and now I have stolen it from my mom, and it's mine. Um, Andrew says, Kay finally gets to talk about a win. Yes, I do. It feels like it's been absolutely forever. Um, so, ladies and gentlemen, here we are gathered today to talk about the Montreal Canadiens winning a game that they won 4-1. Um, that could have easily been 6-1 if Matt Duchene didn't exist. But hey, here we are. Um, what a hell of a game. So the plan for today is period one, our period one. We will go over the game. We'll talk a little bit about what we saw today, some specific plays we saw today, maybe. Second period, I want to talk a little bit just about kind of where we're at in terms of defensemen, the defense group, with Mike Matheson being out day to day, second game in a row that he couldn't make it, which I'm scared, but hey, the emergence of Adam Engstrom combined with what seems like a really rough little patch for Jaden Struble. Um, so we'll talk a little bit about defensemen, and I think what's been some solid hockey by Arbor Jackeye. So we'll talk about the defensemen in the second period. In the third period, I want to talk a little bit just about some of the forward lines that we're seeing. Or you know what? In the second, we might talk about the forwards a little bit because I want to congratulate Zeg Bolduc for, reaching that final, first goal at the Bell Centers as a Montreal Canadian. I'm sure he scored there on the Blues. I'm not even sure. Actually, maybe I should, you know, fact check that. But hey, who amongst us likes to check facts? So in the third period, we'll talk a little bit just more about the lines themselves. I want to try to figure out what it is exactly that makes our second line look not very good in terms of statistics because as you guys know, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to understand how to take those numbers and interpret them. Um, and I'm not sure what's happening because according to my eye test, I think they've been a lot better. Although this game, according to my eye test, they've been better than the numbers, but according to this game, really not a bad line by them at all. And the third line I think is doing good stuff. Again, we need them to do that. Villeneuve Gallagher, yeah, just gonna talk a little bit just about the forwards. I think Dobish had a good enough game. Monty seems to be still be working things out in Laval. Jacob Fowler is there. So I think for once, goalies are not something we need to talk about, and that itself is a relief. Now, I'm going to start by talking about period one of this game. But before I do have to give you guys a disclaimer. I missed half of period one. I had a bit of a hectic day, let's say. Um, I'm a very I don't say routine oriented because that's going to make me sound a lot more organized than I am. But I'm a very listen, one day, one thing changes in my day, I'm done. I was at the gym a little too long today and completely just threw me off that. Anyways, who cares? Not you guys, but my point being, I missed the first half of the first period. So let me know kind of what you guys thought about that. In my notes, I noted that just strictly according to the numbers, according to what I was seeing, they scored on their first shot. Then it was disallowed. Goalie interference, I believe, was the call. And then they scored on their actual first shot. Romelli says Dobish 2 goal on first two shots tonight. Yeah. But one thing I'll note is that by end of that period, the shots were 7-2. And what the scoreboard said at the end of the day was 1-1 because Frank Nazar scores on on the first shot for for the Hawks essentially, but it is Zach Bolduc who gets the goal for the Canadiens. And if you guys see a replay of that goal and his celebration, you can tell how much that means to him, right? Like that meant a lot to him. I think he's been trying desperately to get his goal. Um, I think today his goals were earned. They were well earned. I thought that first line had a great, great game. Romelli's correcting me that it was a 7-4 shots in the first. They corrected that in the intermission. Okay, good to know. Still a good enough differential, but yeah. Are they counting the two shots? That one of them that was the disallowed goal? No, I don't think they are. But yeah, I think overall, pretty good first period from what I saw. They weren't going gentle into that good night. They didn't seem to give up, which they absolutely should not have. That would have been absolutely unacceptable. So good for them. They were fighting back. It was a game at the Bell Center. Um, Overall, it seemed like the team was doing well. Good stuff was happening, and I'll take it. Um, then the second period starts. I thought it was a pretty good one. It was a little back and forth favoring the Habs, I think. I'm taking a look at some of the hashtag numbers because I honestly just my notes are so sparse here because I remember that there's a little bit of this period that I was like, a little bit of this game that I was like, oh, I have a terrible feeling because this felt like it could have very easily been a trap game, but it wasn't. Um, so yeah, they second period, there's a PK or there's a penalty, the penalty's killed. Jake, I don't remember that exact PK, but I'm sure Jake Evans had something to do there because he always does. If it's a good penalty kill, generally that means Jake Evans did a lot of that work. Um, I noticed that Burakovsky had a bit of maybe not a late hit, perfectly legal, honestly. I just didn't like it. He just didn't, he had a hit on Demidov that I didn't particularly like because Demidov is my small baby boy and I don't like seeing him hit. Uh, he had some Dobesh had some good sequence of saves. There was one that he made that was a classic Dobesh save, which was it looked like he didn't know where anything was happening. He didn't know what he was doing, and yet he made the save. He let out a rebound, I think is what it was. There was a terrible rebound, and then he immediately made a great save, which is so the Jakub Dobesh experience. So after that, there's a great sequence by the second line and Dobson and Struble, who drew a penalty. Jane Struble, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I think it's just been a bit of a rough patch for him, but we'll talk about that. But he did draw that penalty, so good for him. That second line today was just on fire, man. I thought that was one of their best games by far. Um, Slav and Demidov obviously doing a lot, but Kapanen is also, man, good for him. I never in a million years expected this out of him. So on that power play, man, that looked like a really good power play. They were doing some great passing, but they were also shooting too, which I think has been one of the problems with this power plays. They'll make some great plays, some great passes, and then they don't shoot. As our friend Vaguely Stats in the chat calls it, because the Avalanche do this too, is it's the pretty passing play. So it's not even the power play, it's the pretty passing. Um, but at the end of the day, it looks like, or we thought, that the second power play unit got a goal by Texier banking it off Galley. Unfortunately, it is called offside. It's it's annoying, right? Like it's not whatever. It's just it's frustrating. At least that one came back fast, right? Like at least that one seemed like they were like they didn't have to like look at the footage for 50,000 years. I'm gonna I'm like out of breath. I'm gonna check the chat a little bit as I find some breathing room, and then we'll talk about what happened next. Vermelli says NHL want to help out Dobish's save percentage. I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Also, good night, Andrew. Who's going to, I'm assuming, going bed somewhere. I don't know. I'm not your mom. But goodbye is what I mean. I should really shut up while I'm ahead, eh? Romelli says something about Suzuki's game. We can talk a little bit about that, maybe in the overtime period, or maybe even we'll talk about that later because I do disagree a little bit with the assessment. But yeah, happy to come back to that. Um, so my next note I have after offside is power play. Nazar can't believe it. Cry harder, bozo. I've developed, and it's really not his fault because Frank Nazar seems like a great player, seems like a pleasant enough guy. I know nothing about him, but the little bits that I've caught seem to be really like cute friendship with Connor Bedard, etc., etc. But there's something about him that bothers me on ice, I think, and I think that's the player he's like it annoys me. I think there's always the baggage as well, also, of course, of the fact that Frank Nazar could have been a Montreal Canadian if that pick hadn't been traded for Kirby Doc. But also, according to all reports, that was never going to be the player they drafted. So, you know, mileage varies there. Um, So I said here that it wasn't as good dominant of a power play overall compared to the last one because they didn't spend most of the time in the power play in the Hawk zone. But when they were in the Hawk zone, they made some sick plays. Cole Caulfield, man, it's not a bit of a unlucky little sequence for him, I think. Um, but they get a flurry of chances. One thing I do want to note, and I think overall the refs were like pretty good this game. I thought they were like good about not making themselves a story. I just do have a problem with what happened at the end of that game, which or the end of that period, which was I don't remember who it was. Uh, Tervinen maybe who went knee on knee on Demidov. And it was near the end of the period, and the Habs have gotten the last two power plays, so of course they weren't going to call that on him. But it was pretty clear knee on knee. Um, yeah, it's funny. Romelli says refs were not good. They were equally bad on both sides. I think that's unfortunately that's the bar we have for these refs is are you consistent? Are you bad? Sure. Are you going to be consistently bad? At least give us that, right? But that neon knee did not like that. It was near the end of the period, so I didn't really mind that it didn't seem to start anything and they were on the power play, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't really mind. I think that happens anytime else you want your guys, going right at that hawk, but whatever. Um, Trinko says there's so many guys on the Hawks that I was like, they play here now. Yeah, they're like the new Arizona Coyotes for me in terms of that guy plays there now. Okay. I somehow managed to forget that Andre Burakovsky plays on the Hawks, although I think I've like noticed this every single time we play. I do have a bit of a soft spot for him considering he was a Colorado Avalanche when they won that cup, and it's hard to not have fondness for a guy that you saw win the cup on your team. Um, so They started on the power play, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe, and I'm going to do a quick check on this. Um, Money Puck is very useful in providing so much information all in one place. Um, who was it? Was it a power play goal? I don't know. I feel like they usually say if it's a power play goal. But yeah. Uh, Zachary Bolduc scores another one, second one at home, second one of the game. You know, great. Love to see it. He scores. It's from Hudson and Suzuki. Um, Again, I thought it was a well-earned goal by him on a well-earned game. I still don't know if he's the answer on that first line, but today looked good. And they kept that pressure on. After the next, they didn't step back, they didn't do anything. They kept that pressure on. And it seems to end with a Anderson goal, a Josh Anderson goal. However, that Disney villain looking ass coach that they have over their challenges for offsides. Listen, a goal is, or sorry, rules are rules, right? Offside is offside. I don't like it. That one I really genuinely didn't like. At least the first one, they kind of called it back right away. The second one, they took like 30 seconds to zoom in like 20 times on grainy footage, right? Like it just didn't seem like a it's just annoying. I think that kind of play is really annoying. But right away after that disallowed goal, I did not think that they didn't let it what was I gonna say? Yeah, they didn't let it be linger or discourage them or let Chicago gain momentum from that. They just kept going. I noticed here that Demidov is really feeling it. He seemed to be trying to make a lot of stuff happen, a lot of decisive shots, which Zachary Dion says, can we talk about how good Demidov's shots were looking? He finally started shooting. Yeah, man, that's what you love to see. He needs to make himself a threat, and that's exactly what he's doing. So great game by that line. Part of that is the fact that Demidov was just shooting. This is something, again, that Andrew and I talked about last time we were on the show together. How we need Demidov to or somebody on that second line to shoot, right? Like it seemed to be doing a lot, but there weren't a lot of shots. So to see Demidov take those shots, great, great sign. Um, Piano Matt points out, and we're talking about offside now, is that offside challenges weren't meant for minuscule plays that the human eye missed. Ramelli adds, automate offside or make the refs look at it game speed instead of slow motion zoomed in. Yeah, I don't know what that solution is there because, like, I do understand you don't want there's been times where an offside goal has been called back on the Habs, and I've been like, "Yeah, that's not fair. They shouldn't get a goal there. Like, that's not fair." But um, it's also like these minuscule challenges that are doing nothing for anyone. It's some of these things, for example, the puck over the line, kind of those assessing plays that they do to try to figure out if a puck crossed the line. Those, I'm always like, yeah, please get them better cameras. Please try to get them just a better visual on that stuff. But for offside challenges, I dread them getting better cameras or anything like that. Eventually, when the NHL catches up with the rest of the world, because I don't want them calling back a goal because in 4K you can see that it was offside, right? Like that feels like ridiculous at that point. Um, maybe some way of working it is a time limit on how long you can take a look at it. Although I wonder if that makes the refs just make worse decisions because they're hurrying. I don't know. There was a point, excuse me. Sorry, I'm back. Um, Yeah. Again, I noted that I felt like Demidov was again really feeling it. And that came along with his line really feeling it. And as Trinka points out in our chat, I love watching Slav bring pucks in through the neutral zone and then just dominate on the boards. He holds guys back with one hand and is like, yeah, I'm big. Um, yeah, totally. I again, you're seeing this evolution of Yuri Slafkovsky as a player. I had some friends reach out to me actually after the Avs game, and keep in mind that was a bad game. If you not, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but it was a rough one for the Habs. Um, and even then, I had some friends reach out to me from like the Avs side and say, "Hey, I thought Yuri Slafkovsky looked like he's going to be a monster." Like I had some of those friends reach out and be like, "Hey, that guy like is noticeable and like in a way that's a little scary." And I was like, "Hell yeah, man. I love to see it." Like I know partly you're just probably being really nice to me because you know that like it sucks to watch your team lose like that, even if it is against another team that you love. In an ideal world, all of Habs Avs games would go to overtime and each team would at least get a point, like a 6-1 or whatever loss that was. That's embarrassing. I don't want that, but hey. Anyways, so it was good to see. Carmelli says, been saying for over a month that Slav is the most important forward in this team right now. Um, you know what? I I can hear the argument for that. I really, really could. Let's talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the forwards. But I totally see what you mean. Um, yeah, Ramelli says whichever line he's playing on ends up playing the best. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that because I do totally agree. Um, man, some rough turnovers by Jaden Struble there. Again, uh oof. It a rough, rough night for him. Dobish makes some good saves. Wasn't needed to make a lot of saves, but when he was called upon, he made those saves. Um, then it is Owen Beck who gets a goal, or so it seems like. It was Noah Dobson who got the goal. Owen Beck cannot get his first NHL goal for the life of him. And I just feel really bad for the kid, but it's also so funny. I fear it is one of the funniest bits. Owen Beck seems to create the funniest stories around him because I'm not sure if you guys remember, but Jake Evans he was after he was signed. You know what? I'll bring this story back because I think it's really funny and I want to make sure I get it accurately. So while we're on ad break, I am going to look it up and just double check. Um, but yeah, we'll just go through it. They had a penalty kill, penalty was killed, and then the empty net. Slav misses it, which is very funny. And then Nick gets it. One goal, one assist, ends the game like that. Lane Hudson, I believe, had, and I'm pulling up some stats because I have the numbers. The numbers here is, oh, fun number. Fun fact. This is according to Habs and High Heels, Priyanka Emirates. Lane Hudson joined Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield as the third Habs player with at least 70 points in 2025. Last time the Habs had at least three players reach the 70 point mark in the same calendar year was 1996. So again, once again, I must reiterate, poor Carey Price, but also this is really an exciting time to be a Habs fan. Um, and another thing I want to note, as again, Priyanka said, Jake Evans wasn't on the score sheet tonight, but he had himself a game in the face-off dot going 15-2, which is an 88% face-off percentage. So love that for him. Once again, I think Jake Evans is starting to play some of the best hockey that we've seen out of him this season. I think maybe both him and Josh Anderson are in the boat where their kids are finally starting to sleep a little bit. So, good for him. So I am going to send us over to one of our lovely sponsors, Inchibichu. And while I do that, I am going to A, cough really hard, um, and B, find the story that I think is very, very funny that has Jake Evans and Owen Beck. So catch you guys on the other side.
famous chateau at 4000 Rue Saint Ambroise lies one of Montreal's coolest secrets, a glamorous Gothic jewelry store owned and run by women. Inchu Bijou isn't just a business, they've built a community that supports bold creativity and expression. When I was first introduced to founder Astrid Episegomian's shop, I was floored by the detail, vision, and scale of what she's built from her own mind. I don't think anyone would call me goth, but I know an innovator when I see one. Along with building their own business, Inchu Bijou also hosts markets for vendors in their space called Marché Maleficarum, boosting their whole community. If you don't live in Montreal, explore inchubijou.com, where you'll find over 800 designs that range from affordable to bespoke. Check out Inchu Bijou right now, a Game Over partner from the beginning.
Okay, I understand I'm back. Just give me a second. I'm really just trying to find this out because I think it is so funny. Okay, I can't find it now, but I believe that there was a story that Jake Evans he this is I think right after he signed is he said something about how um he said something about, I think this is before he was signed and Owen Beck was getting a lot of call-ups, and I think a lot of people were frankly penciling him in on that Jake Evans spot. And he said something about like how like, oh yeah, I didn't really want to mentor Beck because he was gonna be my replacement or something like that. And I just thought it was so funny that he was like, yeah, I'm not fucking training the kid who might be my replacement. Like that's so funny. Okay, I'm gonna catch up on the chat before we start talking about the forwards a little bit and the forward lines, maybe. Oh yeah, I do want to mention, Caden Gooley is skating. There is a video of him skating, and I think it's just his like compression leggings and hoodie, and it's very funny because he looks so skinny because it's like it's like he's got the leggings on. It's just very fun. But seeing him skate is always good. Seeing, it's some hope. And it's like it's so good because we're getting some kind of bad news about what is essentially uh bad. It seems like what Marty is saying is that there isn't Jake Evans or sorry, Kirby Doc isn't coming back. Brother, you are getting blocked. I don't I don't need to be put you here. Um you are gone. So anyways, so it seems like what Marty said is that we're not expecting to see Kirby back anytime soon, which sucks because it seemed like we should have started to see him at this point. So I'm gonna check something that someone said, which is 23 MA or M Alyssa, I think, on Twitter. They said, that's not good news. And this was a quote retweet on what Marty said. And it was Doc's initial estimated return was December 14th to 28th. Yeah. So, Marty saying that he doesn't think Kirby Doc will be back soon as he continues to recover. Just a bad sign. So to see any amount of good news in a picture of Caden Gooley skating, great. But I am a little concerned about Mike Matheson. We'll talk about that as we get to defense. I want to talk about the forward lines a little. So again, I am going to check our chat and see if I can find anything. Um Trinka points out that they said not back before Christmas. Yeah, it still seems a little further than his timeline, but it could be so much worse. So I'm okay with that. Um, hmm. Par JF says, I just want Nick Suzuki, and this is where scrolling back in the actually, again, I will save that. This is a discussion on Nick Suzuki on Team Canada, and we'll talk about that in our overtime period. Um, so Yeah, let's go back to the comment that Romali made earlier, which was, I've been saying for over a month that Slav is the most important forward on this team right now. Whichever line he's playing on ends up being the best. And the piano mat adds that moving Slav to line 2 really awakens something in him. Not that he was playing poorly before, but he drives that line now. Yeah, I don't know what it is exactly about the second line, but his essential role is still the same of creating, uh, keeping possession, keeping guys against the board, winning those board battles, all of those things. But it's just, he seems to have really taken a step forward. I was a little like, I think initially when I saw that, the changes in line, my biggest worry was, oh, is this a demotion for Slavkovsky? Because I don't understand why. I think ultimately this was Marty's attempt to find a third person on that line with Demidov to make it work, and B, try to spread the talent a little. That first line could not keep being our only source of stress for the other team. So to see, I'm glad that Slav doesn't seem to have taken that as a demotion and more as a challenge, and he stepped up to it. Sorry, I keep hiccuping. Um, I just almost like something that Piano Matt again said about not him playing that he wasn't playing poorly before, but he drives that line now. I think I'm gonna take a second to be smug. Is after seeing the change in that second line, it's very clear how much Slav was doing for that first line, and it's undeniable, and I'm really glad to see people noticing it because felt very often like people were treating Slav as if he was riding the coattails of that line. First of all, we saw what that line was like without Yuri Slavkovsky playing at this kind of level of Slav. Um, we saw that Anderson uh, experiment. It wasn't working. And you know, it, it seems like that was really the missing piece, and Slav made it work. And so I'm a little smug in that, but I am more than smug, more than happy to say that that second line seems to be working. Slav and Demidov seem to have this chemistry that I'm so happy about, that I'm so excited about, because those are two very big pieces of our future. So it's good to see that building. And I'm also guilty of this in that I don't think I give Kapanen enough credit on that line. He's doing a lot for that line. Obviously, he's centering that line, so he's doing a lot for them. It's very clear that he's the third most talented piece on that line. I don't think there's any um, doubt in that. And I don't think it's an insult to Oliver Kapanen to say that. I just think it's the truth. But he does some things really well. He plays a very simple game. He just goes, goes, goes. He's willing to battle in front of the net. He's willing to do all of those things that allows, I think, Slav and Demidov some more time and space. I still think Demidov still is in the most successful position on that line because Slav does a lot of the work along the boards still. Um, uh, Jordan in our chat, Jordan Heiki, I think. I'm so sorry. Who, by the way, I was on his podcast with him, I believe. So says Kapanen can be a future 2C, in my opinion. He's playing this well as a rookie and can be easily a solid second liner in his prime. I have to say that I think that might be a bit of an overreach for Kapanen. I think that's something he might be able to play. I don't think he'd thrive there. I think for him, the ideal line or the ideal spot would be the 3C. So, but he's doing a more than admirable job where he is right now. So much love for Slav in the chat right now, which I love to see. MFM says, I'm so happy for Slav. He works so hard and puts a lot of pressure on himself. It's nice for him to be rewarded. It's also very nice to see the points are coming for him. I totally agree. There was a lot of, I used to call him the third assist king, the tertiary assist. If there'd been a third assist, he would get it. So many of those points that Nick and Cole got And like it'd be like Matheson or it'd be like Hudson or someone who would get that third point, but it was a lot of the work was being done by Yuri Slafkovsky. So yeah. Um, Something that Montreal MUFC points out is that I-State Slaf is enjoying having increased responsibilities by driving the line for two less experienced line mates. That might be it too. I think he might just be feeling like a grown up in a weird way. I think he might just be feeling like, hey, I'm responsible now. These are like not my kids, but they're my little brothers. I gotta help them out. So, hey, listen, whatever it takes, I'm just happy for him. Love that kid. Love him so much. He clearly cares a lot, and it's nice to see some of the work paying off. Um, I know something that like Arpan Basu has repeatedly said, and or other reporters have repeatedly repeated, is that Slav really values points. It's really hard for him not to show up in the point sheet, and I totally get that, especially for a guy who dominated the way he did coming up. Um, but it's not like I'm glad that he's seeing the results in terms of the points are coming now. And they came because he's doing the stuff that he was doing before, just wasn't getting rewarded for, right? So really glad to see that. Again, super happy for him. Super happy because it seems like him and Demidov really like seem to get along very well. You know, those are you love to see that. Trinka says Slav is going to wreck shop at the Olympics. Yeah, totally. Would love to see him do that. I think that's going to be really, really, I don't want to say for his confidence, good for his confidence, because I think Yaroslav Kovsky is very well aware of what the Olympics are versus what like actual NHL hockey is like. But I think it's good. I think Yaroslav Kovsky is a guy with a lot of pride. I think that's something that is a fact about him is he cares a lot and he has a lot of pride about what he can do. And I think it'll mean a lot to him to be able to show up for his country. So good for him. You know, I'm looking at some of the expected numbers on Money Puck right now. And Yuri Slafkovsky, you know, highest expected excuse me. Sorry. Highest expected goals in all situations. You know, Nick Suzuki at second, but Yuri Slafkovsky at the very top at 1.17. So yeah, you know, our first it's very funny because in order of expected goals, it's Yuri Slafkovsky, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, player in between, and Ivan Demidov. Do you guys want to guess who that player in between is? No cheating. Just tell like drop your chats, your guesses in the chat, and I will let you know if you guess correctly. While you guys do that, I am going to just do a quick check on 5-on-5 and see what those expected goals are there. Yeah, shocking on okay, that's very funny again too. So it's the top four 5-on-5 expected goals are in order. Cole Caulfield, blank player, same player as the as before, the one that I'm asking you guys to guess. Yaroslav Kovsky, Oliver Kapanen, Arbor You know, like it's very, very funny. Good for them, honestly. That's a banger of a fun fact, frankly. While you guys guess that, I am going to check in on the chat. Trinka guesses, is it Josh Anderson or Jake Evans? Kyle guesses Bolduc. Even funnier, it is Joe Veleno. It is Joe freaking Veleno, man. What a guy. What a player. You love to see that of a guy, man. It's just so fun to. It seems like whatever is happening to Joe Veleno is it's good for him. Whatever's happening there, he seems to see Texier coming up and going, nope, it's gonna be my spot as well. Which good for him. It sucks because I really do like what Jared Davidson brings, and I think with Texier playing as well as he is, Joe Villano suddenly being good. I don't think there's a space for Jared Davidson in this lineup. Is he still on the roster? Am I being silly? I swear I saw him in the box for when they were panning over to the injured players on the broadcast. They like had a shot of that. You know, Caden Goulet was there, Patrick Laine, fuck, who else was there? Kirby Doc. And I swear I saw Jared Davidson there. So maybe question mark? I don't know. Um, oh hello, hi. I miss Saku. Um, Kyle says sticking it to the team that dropped him. Jordan says, as you would say, Valet, yes, correct. And Montreal MUFC points out, correct, confirms that he's not been moved down to Laval yet, or Davidson, which is odd because it seems like Laval not struggling, but because of all the players that were suspended for them, seems like they could use some bodies. So if they're not going to play him, might be worthwhile just thinning him down. But I also understand the need for having an extra guy there because they don't have any extra guys on D. Um, and we'll talk about the D pairings. And we can talk about that in our next period. But before I move on to the second period of our, or third period of our show, I am going to hand you guys off to our lovely sponsors, Lake St. Motel, and I will be right back.
While you're browsing into Bijou's goth shop, head next door and discover Montreal's most unique selfie studio. Whether you're looking to take some banger pics of your Halloween costume or cosplay, or you want to make some memories with friends, Le Saint Motel has you covered. Experience their bombastic decors that are always changing, hop in the ball pit, and take advantage of their extensive and flexible on-site lighting. Head to lesaintmotel.com to book your time in the studio, book private time where you and your friends will be the only ones allowed in, or book the space for an event. The dedicated, caring staff will make sure that you have a good time. I do have one warning for you before you book. If you have kids, they won't want to leave. Whether you're at Le Saint Motel or in Bijou, tell them Game Over sent you.
Sorry, folks, we are right back. I am just going to I'm checking to see if I missed any interesting quotes. If you guys notice any or spot any, be sure to send them off. Going to do a quick scroll down again while I'm here. And then we'll have the discussion about defensemen. Loaded discussion right now. Okay. Um, Not a Habs Hawks related thing, but a fun fact nonetheless, is something that Frank Saravalli tweeted about was the Pens were shut out in Ottawa versus, this Thursday night, which set Sidney Crosby up with a chance to catch Mario Lemieux for most points in franchise history. And guess where he has that opportunity to do that next? If you were guessing Saturday night in Montreal versus the Montreal Canadiens, you are correct. And we are absolutely giving that one to him. There is no world in which he's not getting that point. Um, Honestly, I'd rather he get that point in Montreal versus in Pittsburgh. Is it petty of me? Maybe. Yeah, I don't want him to get that in Pittsburgh. Get it in Montreal, buddy. If you're gonna do that with us, you do it in Montreal. Okay? Give us that at least. Let us be a trivia fact. Okay. Just to catch up a little bit on the chat again. Ooh, Montreal MUFC says seventh defeat in a row for the Pens. Yeah. They had a lot better of a start to the season than I thought they would. However, things seem to have gone downhill very quickly. I'm sure it doesn't help that their goalie is now Stuart Skinner, but hey. Yeah. Jordan also says Beck has looked very good this call up. I like his pace. Yeah, I think he's been perfectly good in that spot. Hasn't like completely bowed at any point, but we don't need him to. We need him to just be steady and good, and that's exactly what he's done. So good for Owen Beck. He stepped up into that role, stepped up in that position, took advantage of it. Good for him. Although I'm sure Laval is missing a lot of these guys because again, I believe they have something like 4 players suspended because of a absolute debacle of a situation that there happened against the Marlies, Toronto Marlies. I believe there might have been some kicking of Michael Pizzetta's ass in a way that perhaps they shouldn't have done from the bench. He seems to have thrown a very dirty hit, which, listen, Michael Pizzetta plays hard. Even for the Habs, he played hard, but he never really, like, to me, he was never a dirty player. You know, one bad hit does not make a dirty player, but it's certainly some, don't like to see that. Hate to see guys suspended. You don't want guys doing that. You don't want guys like fighting people from the bench, but at the same time, if you're going to take a suspension, take it for something like that. At Montreal MUFC, updating us on the state of the division is the Kings and the Oilers did us massive favors tonight by defeating Tampa and Boston in regulation. So yeah, good. Nobody, they don't get points, which I believe Tampa and Boston are above us technically in the standings for the division. Not that any of it matters because of the way the Atlantic is broken down. Oh my God, give me a sec. Still alive, guys. So I am going to talk about our the next topic at hand, which is defensemen. But before I do, I do want to just remind folks that first, if you guys are watching, thank you so much for watching. If you're participating in the chat, we love having you here. If you haven't, if you've forgotten to, could you please hit the like button? We really, really appreciate it. If you're watching this back later, if you could drop a comment, we'd love that. I love to see you guys having a discussion in the comments or even just saying hi. Really, really, Jesus, we really love having you guys. And yeah, we appreciate all of the love we can get. We are steadily climbing up to 1K followers, so we'd love to have you. Give me a second. Oh, guys, by the way, look, it's my overpriced Montreal Canadiens water bottle. I take it to the gym with me. Um, I I really hope you guys didn't hear that squeaking. I'm so sorry if you did. Uh, I'm so sorry. I probably should have been a little bit more careful with that, but yeah. Is it the best quality? Did I overpay for it? No and yes, but I love it nonetheless. That's my I actually, okay, side note, but I did get my phone stolen few months ago, and I'm very bad about backing up stuff. Totally my fault. I'm stupid and all of those things. I don't want to hear it. I know. Anyways, I lost a bunch of my pictures from my Montreal trip, which was my first ever game at the Bell Center. Again, should have backed it all up a lot easier, a lot earlier, but I didn't, and I don't have a lot from that trip. So this is one of the things I have, and I treasure it very much. Um, so let's talk defensemen, right? I fear Jaden Struble is playing himself off this team. Um, there is some very stiff competition on this team on defense. Not right now, because right now they don't have any healthy defensemen, any healthy extra defensemen, definitely. Um, but he's not like he's playing some bad hockey. I'm looking at the time on ice right now. Jaden Struble with the least amount of time on ice at 10 minutes and 26 seconds. And the second least is Adam Engstrom with 16 minutes and 13 seconds, right? Like that is a pretty big jump. I'm not going to go as far as to say that like they were playing with, you know, 6 defensemen today, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to say they were playing with 5 defensemen today because I do think he's still got enough minutes for it to matter. But what mattered and, you know, what we saw, just not good. And it sucks. It really does. Because Jaden Struble is a defenseman I really like. Um, I think he, at his best, plays very good hockey, plays very well with Lane Hudson. Again, all at his best. He makes good decisions. He's physical. However, when he's not at his best, he seems to really be struggling right now. I know it's like we're asking a lot out of a lot of these guys, frankly. Alexander Carrier played the second highest minutes today on this team at almost 25 minutes. Alexander Carrier should not have to play that many minutes. Alexander Carrier is not a 25 minutes a night defenseman, but he has to. He had to, and he did what he needed to do. So, I'm happy about that. You know, I'm happy to see that Marty's able to lean on some of these guys. However, first of all, we're so cooked if Mike Matheson isn't back soon. But second of all, Jaden Struble is really, really struggling. I'm going to read back in the chat a little because I did see some comments earlier and I do want to address some of them. Or, you know, get some thoughts. Yeah, lots of praise earlier on in the chat, going all the way back to the top is you know, he makes some great decisions. I thought Adam Engström looks stronger and stronger every game. You know, really good for him. Really happy to see that. We were promised a very talented defenseman, and that is exactly what we got. So I'm happy to see that. He makes some better decisions. You know, 5 games experience. I feel like sometimes Ramelli said this earlier. It's crazy watching Engstrom play compared to Struble and even Carrier. The game has like the kid has 5 games experience, and he's already making better decisions than those two. Yeah, I think especially better than Struble. Canamat says, I heard something on the broadcast about Struble seeing no ice time in the third. Was he benched? I don't know exactly if he's benched the entire third, but he was benched quite a bit of that third. Um, Zachary earlier had said Struble has been fighting it. He's not a bad player, but he makes some of the most confounding decisions I've seen since the rebuild began. Constant giveaways and turnovers from him keep killing us. Yeah, there was like at least 3 times I saw him pass the puck to a Blackhawk, and it was not cool. Um Kyle something says, oh, sorry, Trinka also points out that he's playing with Dobson right now and he's not responsible enough for that. Completely agree. Especially because Noah Dobson, I think, hasn't been like bad, but I think he's noticeably struggling compared to the start of the season. You know, it's catching up with him. Kyle Lambert said, if there's a veteran defenseman to be had before the Christmas freeze, some third pair guy, Montreal should really look into that move. They need someone more reliable back there for a pending road trip. I agree with that. I I wouldn't hate it. I just yeah, I wouldn't hate it. It does seem like Montreal is looking into a move. However, it seems like it's for a center in Phil Deneau. So, you know, I wouldn't be mad at that, but yeah. Came to the North earlier, giving me shit for Hamilton being bad. Absolutely not. Um, I do think people are being a little bit harsh on Dane Struble, not in terms of like that I don't think he's been playing badly. I think he's been playing quite badly. Like I'm not gonna deny that. I just think people are like a little bit like extreme, maybe in some ways. I don't like they wanna it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. He's been playing really badly. He could use time away. And by away, I mean either in Laval or in the press box. However, we're simply not in a position where they can do that right now. And we're seeing that. I would for the foreseeable future, not when it comes down to it, not scratch Arbor Jack Guy in favor of keeping Jaden Struble in the lineup. But yeah. I do think it's been another some things Habs absolutely hockey said is it's uh they said quite a lot, but one of the things that they point out is that it's not just one game. One bad game by Struble is another horrible one, right? Yeah. I do disagree. I'm seeing commentary on how we need to trade Struble. I don't think that's true. I think maybe that's jumping the gun a little. Listen, if you can get something for James Struble, yeah, because I don't think he's ultimately in the future plans of this team. However, I wouldn't be in a rush to trade him right now. I really, really wouldn't. He's serviceable enough. He's again been struggling right now. Maybe some time off or Laval will help him. I'd keep Engstrom over him if it came down to sending one of those guys down, frankly. But I'm not eager to get rid of him because we've seen him play good hockey when he's playing good hockey. It's just a matter of playing good hockey. Um, Arden says, has the NHL figured out Lane Hudson yet? Nope, not at all. He's still just quietly doing amazing things that I don't think anybody's really paying attention to because it's no longer his rookie season, but it's great to see. Something Trinkle points out is Dobson also needs a stay-at-home defenseman to cover him when he joins the rush. That's why, since the start, I was always so convinced that it'd be Dobson Gooley pairing. Even when Gooley wasn't injured, it wasn't that. But Mike Matheson was doing a great job as not a stay-at-home defenseman, but maybe like a partially work-from-home defenseman. Right? Like he wasn't staying at home, but he was often working from home. So good for him. Another thing Trika says is most of the defense are currently playing above their level right now. Um, yeah, totally agree. I think that's happening a little bit with the forwards too, but I think the addition of Texier and the fact that Villeno seems to be getting it together and the fact that Beck seems to be doing well in his fourth line role, like I think those lines have settled a little bit more than they were, but I think before all of that happened, especially before Texier, people were not playing were not in the right seats. They were a little bit ahead of them when they should have been, and they were struggling with it. Um, but yeah, right now it's a defenseman doing that. It's their turn apparently. So yeah. Yeah, Trinka says Mathens is a hybrid worker. Yeah, he definitely is. Romilly does say that they do need to, and this is about Struble, they'll need to trade him at some point because I don't think he has a spot on this team next year. Engstrom and or Reinbacher will need to be on the team to gain experience in the NHL next year. And also agrees with the idea of the Gooley and Dobson pairing. Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with you. Like, there's a few complicating factors, though. First of all, will Engstrom or Reinbacher end up being part of be a trade piece for this team? I think those are two, especially Reinbacher, are still players that could earn this team a lot. So if it comes down to it, will those be two guys who will actually make it to the team at the end of the day, like on a long-term basis? I don't know. And I say that because of how good they are and how much potential I think they have. I'm not eager to trade any of them, but I am saying in terms of you give some to get some, right? But yeah, no, totally. At the end of the day, I do think it's not Jaden Struble who has a long-term future on this team. So I'm not against trading him. Again, I think that's a guy who is in no way an untouchable. I wouldn't make that hasty play right now. I don't think Jaden Struble is like burning a hole in your pocket, in that man, English. So at this point, I'm having trouble with English sayings and I'm mixing them up, which tells me that it may be time to start approaching the end of the show. So I'm going to move us on to our overtime period. I'm going to have some water. While I do, if you guys want to drop any questions in the chat, please be sure to do that. And I'll answer them and then head off for the night. By the way, congratulations to me. I did eat. I ate already today, so good job to me. I think I ate because I knew I'd whatever. Never mind. Okay. As a follow-up on our discussion about Engstrom, Reinbacher, Struble, trades, etc. Vermelli adds, I could see Engstrom or Rhino be a piece for a 1B center, but I'd rather they keep them as I don't see Struble or Jack making much progress. I think the thing is, ultimately, those Struble and Jack are third pairing guys, right? I don't know if the spots that they are using right now are spots that would belong to Engstrom and or Reinbacher later. I think I'm like seriously trying to assess what the Habs have in their cupboard right now. Because of the fact that I think it's become very, 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 very clear that they do need a 2C. The answer is if it's inside the organization, it is far away enough in Michael Haig that they need time for that to cook. So they need a stopgap at the very least. Last season, I think people don't remember this, is last season, the Habs made the playoffs without a 2C. For a long period of that qualifying period also, they didn't even have one of their top four defensemen. In Caden Gooley with that laceration, man, that fucking freak injury. I felt so bad for him. They made a lot happen. So I think this team could do a lot with a 2C. And I think we'll need like we need to give some to get some. I really, 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 really don't want it to be Michael Haig, who's what we're giving. So hey. Um Bernardo Senia asked me, and this is about the Avs. How does it feel to be a fan of a team that has lost in regulation twice all season? Man, it is good to be a Colorado Avalanche fan right now. I'll tell you that much. Oh my God, what a fucking team. Oh, what a fucking team. Man, Nathan McKinnon is on fire, and I'm gonna say it. He's playing like the best player in the world right now. I'm not saying he is the best player in the world right now, but this season, he is the best player in the world. I'm saying it. I'm gonna say it. Montreal MUFC points out that it's been rough for a night for Monty in Cleveland. Gotta say, Lowell still had a depleted lineup though. Yeah, I think that's really excuse me. I'm really hiccupy today. Yeah, I think Laval seems like they had a bad, like a rough, very depleted lineup, like we said, like some important guys out. Um, I didn't see videos of all of those goals against that he had. I think there were three against. But one of them I saw, and I believe it was the last one. Scott Matla, Jesus, Scott Matla, did post a video or a GIF of this or something of the last one he allowed, and that one seemed a little rough. It seemed like he wasn't reading the play very well. But you know, goalies have repeatedly said that it's a complete different oh Bernardo Sinias has got Mad Libs. And Montreal MUFC corrects me that it's four goals against. Okay. Good to know. Thank you so much for that information. Yeah, but it did not look good, whatever that last one was. Montreal MUFC points out that I read that Monty will be brought back with the Habs on Sunday, but do you see any sense behind that decision? I believe Monty can do with 14 full days with the goalie coach in Laval. Man, I don't know how to deal with goalies, frankly. I don't I don't want to say they're magic, but they kind of are. I don't know how you deal with that. I just also don't think I think it sends the wrong message to put Simon Montembeault back in that net when Jacob Fowler and Jakob Dobesch have been keeping them in it for right now, and Monty hasn't. I think that's the really difficult thing about getting goalies back on track is the only way out is through for goalies, in my viewing experience. Only way out is through, and what through means is either you play with a bad goalie backing you up and you simply play better to get them to get over it, right? But I don't think the Habs are a good enough team to do that. So essentially, what you're doing is you are kind of resigning yourself to a loss sometimes when you're just putting that goalie in nets. I don't know, man. It's hard. If you have any more questions, just let me know. Otherwise, I am going to start signing off. Yeah, I'm gonna start signing off. Just gonna do a quick read over. Um, Ramelli, going back to the discussion about 2C, I would target a 1B center, not a 2C. For me, a 2C is like a Zaka or a Shen, which isn't good enough. I want a 1B center like a Thomas or a Tage. I'd be willing to pay a lot for that. Yeah, but that assumes somebody wants to give up a Thomas or a Tage, right? Like that's you have to. I I do I don't want to say they regret any sort of decision that puts them on the hook. I don't know. I think that's the thing that they're in a really hard position in this 2C kind of spot. I think Nick Suzuki has very solidly defined himself as the 1C, as a 1C in this league and this team's 1C. I think anybody who's trying to convince you otherwise has no business talking about the Habs or the NHL hockey, really. But it's definitely good to it's good to have a guy who can play 2C, right? It's a good to have a guy that who can play 1C if knock on wood, Nick Suzuki needs time off, right? Um Montreal MUFC asked me, is we have 5 players at World Juniors this year. Will you watch them all or some in particular? I obviously have Michael Haig, but I want to see Atos Koivu in action as well. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep an eye overall. I'm probably not gonna be watching any guys in specifically, but like you said, Michael Haig is a big one. That's a guy who you want to cheer for and also is on the first line in the lines I saw right now. Playing next to Misa, I think. So love to love to see that. Yeah. Okay, folks. We are at 1 hour and 10 minutes, and today I was supposed to go a lot shorter than or not a lot shorter, but my plan was to go shorter. But as per always, you guys gave me a great discussion and lots of comments in the chat. Super active chat today. Thank you so much again. Love having you guys here. Love talking to you. But I am going to sign off. I have to go drink some tea and prepare for watching episode 5 of A Heated Rivalry coming up. I love you guys. And yeah. Yes, also Ramelli does remind us to please click live. Please, 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 please do that. Really appreciate it. Okay. Love you. Bye.